Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of SEO Fight Club. Hope you're having a good week. Let me say hello in the chat. And to remind people to ask questions, because we will be answering questions, and feel free to suggest topics too. Doesn't have to be a specific question. I will pop out the YouTube chat, so I have that visible here. And Clint, how was the conference this weekend?
It was good. I had a good time with it. I I did a roll up on SEO this week for it, just going over my notes. But it was nice seeing. I met a whole bunch of new people, saw some old faces. And I had a good time.
Yeah, I thought it was a really potent event. As a lot of speakers were just giving their whole tactical playbook, so people were rapid fire photographing the slides. It was pretty remarkable. The attendee satisfaction level seems like it was.
I've got a meeting now. Turn this off, Alexa. Alexa.
Alexa.
Got to be mindful of your mutes, people. No big deal though. Yeah, I thought that the tactical payload of this conference was unusually high. So it was pretty impressive. Any takeaways that are shareable without causing controversy?
Brock Misner's stuff was awesome. I think most people who've ever seen a Brock Misner presentation or seen his course probably have seen him talk about that stuff before, mainly like the URL manipulation, etc. But I can't kind of stress enough. I mean, we've tested that, and what he's doing pretty ad nauseum, and that shit just works. So people need to be. If you haven't had the opportunity to see Brock speak, or you haven't picked up his course, I would definitely recommend that. The Holly Talk. I mean, everyone's seen the Holly Talk at this point, right? Cell phones and stuff.
Phones, and more phones.
Yeah, I get a lot out of that, and being able to see what she's doing. I have yet to take action on it, but on the flip side of that, unless you're gonna be buying a crap ton of computers, a crap ton of phones, and it's a bunch of wireless networks, then it's probably not for you. You're better off just getting her to do that madness, or do it for like yourself or your local area kind of thing. And that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. I'm just going to buy one computer, 10 phones, and see if I can make it work.
Well, one thing I like about what she's doing is she's doing really low level engagement testing, like seeing if, a device that drives to a local business has impact. And that's fundamental force engagement testing there. She's working on a physical model of engagement when you're testing in that kind of way, where if, does physically moving the device to the business have an impact? I mean, that's some low-level engagement testing, and not many people do that. So it's always cool to see updates to it, and the fact that she's continuing to do it and verifying her results is really important, because I think you're right. Not a lot of people are going to do it because it's just too hard and too expensive to do. But she's kind of, in a way, proving that there's a fundamental engagement layer in the system.
Yeah.
And academically, I like that a lot. So I don't mind seeing it over and over and over again, because repeating the test and reproducing your results is really good validation. Let's see here. We have some questions already coming in. Let's say you want to make one more .it spam network. What will be your strategy? Well, the thing about the .it spam network is, I think the only reason that it continues to exist is that it exists on the fringes. Like, if they actually push to rank that network hard, they probably would rank it, but then Google would have to deal with it. And so, as kind of a fringe system that's extremely wide, it tends to never get addressed. And so they could do crazy things like take 10 to 15% of the primary index away from the rest of us, and Google lets it slide because they're down around 130 to 187 in the rankings. But yeah, I don't know that you'd want to make one that ranks well. I think that would be a high investment that ends in serious losses. So I would think twice about it. While it's remarkable, academically on how it works, it's also an art form to keep it in the index. And if two people did it, now you're talking about 20% of the primary index being absolute garbage. You're going to force a lot of legitimate businesses out at that point. The .it network basically single-handedly forced most of SEO testing out, because all of our garbage pages were in the page range that they play in. And so the .it network is probably the number one culprit for pushing out test pages. So if we had more of that, I think that would be detrimental to SEO testing too. What do you think, Mike? Can the world survive more .it spam networks?
I think that stuff just kind of drives Google to do what it's doing, right? They're showing less pages, and they'll continue to do that as it goes. And then potentially, I mean, there's going to be a level where users are like, I've had enough, and they'll move to the other search engines. But I bet you that gets even tighter and tighter just to get rid of that crap.
Yeah, we have Holly in the audience today. She said she started testing reviews. Wanted you to know that, Clint.
Nice.
Going directly to page instead of doing engagement with it. We'll see if the property pops. So she's testing local too. You gotta love it. There are so few SEO testers in the world. I literally get chills when someone tells me about a test they're running. It is so rare. It is such hard work, and it is so vital for our industry. So that's awesome. If you want to come on the show, Holly, and tell us about any research you do, let us know. We'll bring you on. Let's see. How do you use iframes in your SEO strategies? I don't. I'm not a huge fan of iframes and SEO. I know that fundamentally Google views them as a link citation, so it's kind of like linking to another page, but you're linking to it in a frame within your own page. And I know there are strategies that work that use it. I just think it's kind of clunky, so I haven't been a big fan of it. But if somebody shows me a dead simple way to shoot things to the moon with it, I'm always open to change my mind. What do you
Oh,
think?
of course you are. If it ranks me, I'll be worried about it. Otherwise, bleh.
Yeah,
What kind of attitude
exactly.
is that, Test? What kind of attitude is that, Ted?
Well, I mean,
Attitude is that? Come on, tester Ted. You should be testing those things, feeling what they do.
I do. I just have an easier time without. That's what
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah, I mean, though, I use them for backlinks, essentially, mainly videos and maps. You can do it with websites too. We've tested that, and it works fine. A lot of people get they get tossed a little bit excited about, let's do iframe rings and all that madness and trash, right? And some of that works to some extent. And if you're in an easy competition, you can push it up. But maybe in the hard stuff, it's the difference between 12 and 10, which is significant. But you just gotta play with them. They're not the end all be all. I wouldn't recommend going out and spamming them out, but if you're using a service like Manage PR, where you can embed the website on a lot of the properties that he's got and go direct, then take advantage of that stuff. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
don't go out and build 1,000 pages with iframes because somebody said it was an exciting way to build backlinks.
I do think they work. I don't think they're harmful. I just, personally don't think it's the minimum viable SEO that I need at this time, or at least I don't understand how to work it in that way.
Yeah.
They're not bad. If you use them, keep using them. If you want to try them, try them. So I'm not trying to dissuade anybody. It's just the question was, how do I use them? And I'm just being honest. Marco
Benavides, formerly of Semantic Mastery, I don't know what he's doing now. He did a lot of research on this. And at the end of the day, the conclusion is they're backlinks. And if you want, you can get embeds on other people's sites that get a lot of traffic, and you can put that on there. And that traffic pulled by the embed actually counts for you too. Plus, you get a backlink. I mean, why not do it?
Let's see. We have a question. What is your process for creating content briefs for new pages? Do you use Cora Pop right away? Yeah, I do. Like my formula for ranking a new site in about 3 weeks involves getting the domain name first and foremost, then doing the press release. Then I run Cora, figure out phase 1 through phase 4, which is mostly on-page SEO and diversity of signals. And then upon properly doing that, it's just wait 3 weeks and you're there. And Clint is falling asleep. He's tired of hearing it.
You did too much work. I mean, if you're doing a new site, all that stuff you just said, I'd be all over it. But if it's new pages for an exciting existing market, you've already done that research. By this time, you should have a basic template for how your content briefs will look to rank in that market. And then throw your piece of content up, see where it lands. That's when you open Pop and Cora and stuff after that. That's how I do it. Yeah. Makes sense. So instead of, like, if you, Ted, were to, with SEO tools or the top SEO factors site, going to write a piece of content on that, you already know the fundamentals, the outline, the headings. You know how you're going to use your H1s and H2s. You know how you're going to use your keywords and your entities. And you don't have to use Cora to know that you're already going to do that. And then by the time you have written it, because you know the market and the topic so well, when you put it up, it's probably going to rank 15 to 20. And then you just open Cora and Pop and do your schema and refine it, knock it up to 5, and you'll build 5 backlinks. And there you go, you're number 1.
Yeah, and I use Cora, oftentimes Clint's right, you know that you're going to use text, you know what types of text you're going to use, you know what zones of the page you're going to write to. You don't need Cora to figure that out. What I use Cora for is knowing when to stop. It's like, once you got it, quit investing in it. And so, because once you have all that on-page SEO knowledge, really what Cora brings to the table is, hey, you've won these factors, move on to something else now. And you don't want to over-invest in something you've already won. You want to know when to move on to different factors and when to move on to different keywords and when to move on to different pages. And so if you're doing minimum viable SEO, the primary function of Cora is when to stop. Let's see. How does adding a secondary category in Google Business Profile trigger suspension, especially in a spammy niche like CBD? Or no, it's not how does it. It's does adding a secondary category trigger suspension. I haven't worked in that space, so I don't know if it's more sensitive or not. I imagine it probably would be, but I don't know firsthand. What do you think? Have you worked in that space, Clint?
I mean, he's talking about maps. So in maps, if you fart that day while you're editing, you can get your map suspended. So, and there's no one. I mean, it's like if you haven't touched your map in a year and then you go in there and add a category, they could probably suspend you. I did that with my Phoenix map. I went in there and fixed one of the services, suspended instantly. The map was 3 years old. I fixed the service, changed the word, and boom, suspended. So could they suspend you for adding a secondary category? Yes, but there's no telling with that system these days.
Now, the general advice is to get your documentation in order before you ever make an edit. So you want your doing business as and your business license and your signage photos and whatever you're going to have to get reinstated, have that all collected before you ever edit, because you want to minimize your downtime.
Yeah, we learned from our experiences with maps is you just get all that, and I even applied it to my own agency. So, and that's when you take on a client, get a copy of the utility bill and they're doing business as, so that when you do edits, and if and when they get suspended, you have it right there all ready to just shoot it off.
Yep. Let's see. Question. I recently purchased my first press release for one of my newer sites. Should I do anything else with it? It depends upon what formula of SEO you're using. There are many ways to rank a page. Like in my style of SEO, I generally have one link with a highly relevant anchor in it. I make it on topic, but I don't optimize it. Lee Witcher, however, he will SEO optimize the heck out of his press releases. So we differ in that regard. Some of the services will embed all kinds of maps and multiple links. So there's, that style of doing it too. But for mine, I try to keep them simple, white hat, honest, and minimal. Like I don't do a press release for every page. I'll do maybe 3 or 4 for, a smaller business and put them on the more important pages. And usually that's enough. By the time you get that many out there, you're just crushing the competitors who have done literally nothing. What do you think, Clint?
I mean, if you're talking about pace of press releases, what Bradley Bennett, he said his pace was 1 a month, right? Terry Samuels, he was using sending one press release out to 3 different services. Well, you do the math on that, is well over 1,000 links. So that you can see the variation in ideas and concepts in that. It's a brand new site. I would do the first press release. and then start adding some new pages and stuff and build links just in small volume to the new pages, just to get Google used to that site and trusting it and stuff.
And let's see, let me know how you do a minimum viable SEO for a medium competition page from start to finish.
I wouldn't even answer that. I wouldn't even try. Don't even try to answer that.
Well, I kind of just did. If you were paying attention, I gave you the recipe.
Yeah.
So
buy a course,
yeah.
go buy traffic hacks from Greg Morrison, and he'll teach you how to do that.
What press release services do you recommend? I think 38 Digital Marketing has the lowest entry cost. I think Magic PR has the highest quality backlinks. And I think Press Advantage generally delivers the largest number of referring domains, but they all tend to be kind of comparable. I know that Magic and 38 Digital Marketing do secondary rounds of boosting the press releases, which is really kind of cool. So, I like them all for different reasons, and I will situationally use them when their strengths are needed more for the circumstances. What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, right? I'm a Sysian reseller. You don't get very many referring domains, but you get better sites. But with Madge, he does the writing, he allows embeds, YouTube embeds, map embeds, site embeds, creates the organizational page on his website for you, and then links to your links from the PRs. For some markets, that could be your entire monthly SEO campaign right there. Just do one of those a month. So like you said, it depends on what you're actually trying to do with it.
Yeah, and I have not tried all services. There's probably a lot of equally valid ones I have not mentioned. I personally like to test new sources of backlinks before I use them on clients or very important websites. In general, a lot of SEOs, Clint included, think I'm stupid and overly cautious on all of my backlink testing. And they're probably right. It's been a long time since I've seen a manual penalty, but I'm still just nervous. I
won't say stupid, right? Because you openly talk about your projects and share all your stuff. And the inherent risk of doing that is inevitably there's going to be some douche nozzle that'll take your stuff and try to get you taken down just for the sake of that, makes them feel better about themselves. So being cautious in what you're doing in your case is totally fine. But for a local business, being that cautious is not always that necessary. Unless you know for a fact you got a douche nozzle that's working near you, then you might have to be a little bit more careful. But for the 99%, you don't have to be that paranoid about what Google's going to do to you when it comes to link building.
Somebody asks, how often do you eliminate phase 5 through 12 deficits in Cora? Phase 5 is going to be local SEO specific. So if it's a local SEO website, you're always going to do phase 5. Phase 6 is about your presentation and search. And so that'll be factors about your domain name and your URL structure. And commonly, you won't touch those unless it's a new page or a new website. You'd be foolish to change them for an already ranking page. So phase 6 is only for new pages and new sites. And 7 through X tend to be kind of, the oddball things. They're great for factor diversity. So I'll often do almost all of phase 11 for that reason. But generally, those are diversity plays that if they're easy enough, I'll knock them out. But really, the core advantage in Cora you get from phases 1 through 4, where phases 1 and 2 get you stuck with the algorithm, and phases 3 and 4 generally get you unstuck. So you can go back to phases 1 and 2 and keep tuning. So that's the part we want you to master is those first 4. Let's see, how do you go about ranking near me searches for organic listings? What are the important factors? Well, you're segmenting your audience. So let's go to the fundamentals of marketing before we go into the technicals of search. So what percentage of people are going to put in a keyword plus the words near me? That's kind of an old school habit, like dawn of geolocation. Most, my kids would never type in a near me search. They know the near me is implied when they type. Same thing, like when I type in Seattle plumber into a search bar, that's because I predate geolocation. And back in the day, we had to type in Seattle plumber. But my kids, they would type in plumber. So you target Seattle plumber, you're slanting towards an older demographic. You search for plumber near Seattle, Washington, where near Seattle, Washington is parameter driven or geolocation driven, then you're slanting younger in your demographic. And when you search for plumber near me, I mean, that's kind of like the smallest, weirdest cluster. So, I wonder about the targeting. What do you think, Clint?
I mean, I think honestly, it's a little bit of user bias that you're applying there. So if you look at the national search volume for near me searches, it's still pretty high. You're not wrong with proximity. Google, remember, I don't know if you remember, there was a time where Google was really big on SEOs doing near me stuff because the search volume is so high. And then instead of and what they did, and because SEOs being SEOs, they went out and bought a whole bunch of near me domains and ranked, and then Google didn't like that, right? So then the proximity became more and more important. Like, where are you? And then the proximity applications and the search results became more important. But the near me stuff is still there. So I don't think he's off target wondering how to target them. But unless you're going to make a page specifically for the near me, a lot of that, in my opinion, comes from the optimization for the location. So yeah, you can we optimize the pages. I optimized for the roofing franchise. I optimized the template for roofing contractor. And then the city modifications in the template fired off and triggered those near me results in the Search Console. So that's how I do it. The other way was, like as I mentioned before, you buy domains. So if you want to make a directory for roofers, for example, go really niche specific, roofers near me, buy that domain, and then go out and build a directory for it. And there you go. Now you take over the near me stuff. I don't know that's working much anymore, because I think Google was forcing those big directories into that to kind of keep little guys out. So do your research before you apply that, though.
Let's see, you got a comment. My English is not good. Sorry if I offended you. That was regarding the how to do minimum viable SEO. And
it's not
offended.
offensive. Yeah, it's not offensive. The problem is trying to break you guys as viewers or as engagers or anywhere, right? If you ask us a question, we can't answer something that broad and be factual to your cases. All right. So if Terry Powers says, "Hey Ted, how do I link build to my website?" I mean, he can give him a couple things, but at the end of the day, those are a couple like standard things, right? And it'd be the same for me. If you ask me about how to optimize your H tags, I could give you a couple things, but it'd be standard to a couple things. When you say, how do you rank for a medium competition term from start to finish? That is like at that point, you might as well be asking Ted, hey, where's your course for on-page optimization? Because that's the kind of broad answer that you're trying to get from start to finish. Go find a domain name, do keyword research, do content research, go write the content, optimize the content, put it in Cora, build backlinks to it, rinse, repeat. I mean, that's the easy basic version that absolutely did nothing for you in regards to your answer. So
Yeah.
when you're wondering those things, and we want to help everybody as much as we can, think more specifically about your question and the unique problem you're trying to solve. Clearly, you're not going to give us your websites and your markets and all that, but hey, I have a I have good example. Ted's group today. There's a website, had code inside of the sentence, and then it was broken up. I mean, hey, I have this thing and it's not indexing my entire sentence, and there's a weird span in there. That kind of, do you think that'll affect my SEO? I mean, before we probably wouldn't have known, but Ted looked at it and then I looked at it and we're like, yep, it clearly does affect your SEO, right? So if you ask those specific questions, we can help you. If we don't know the answer, either research the problem and help you come up with an answer, or direct you to someone who knows how to solve it.
Yeah, and if you go to about 5 minutes before you ask your original question, I answered it in general terms. So we are just pointing out that we kind of, asked and answered already.
Yeah.
But we're not offended, so it's a-okay. Do you use Windows 11 and have problems with a list of different softwares? Yes, a lot of people have had issues with software and Windows 11 specifically. It is a tricky one to get everything working properly. With Cora specifically, reach out to me privately on Skype and I'll help you sort it out.
What's the issues?
It's just weird. Like, people will install and it won't install right. Some of the settings have moved around from Windows 10. Over installing behaves differently than it used to. So if you don't uninstall, then reinstall first, it tends to be more problematic.
That's funny. All that stuff you mentioned, when I put parallels on my Mac and I saw all that stuff, and I was like, oh, that must be just how Windows works right now.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're having lots of just nagging little problems in Windows 11, that's kind of the Windows 11 experience. But most of them are solvable, but I can't support all those products. I can support you on the Cora one, but the other ones, you'll have to go to them for help.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between adding tier 2 links before and after you placed a link to your main website from tier 1 page?
I mean, that's a good plan if you want to do that out in advance and see, just get the power done before you drop your link. If you control the tier 1, obviously, then yeah, go for it.
Let's see. We have a question from Terry Power. Bing with ChatGPT, first impressions. Not very impressed with the Bing implementation. I think it's clunky and kneecapped in how they did it. But the ChatGPT integration into Skype is magnificent. I like it a lot. And I'm also really impressed with the rollout that U.com just did with integrated GPT. They made theirs really fast, and they kind of put it in this kind of, do it quickly and shut up mode, where you ask a question and it does it, and it doesn't get overly verbose. It just cranks out the list quickly. So yeah, I would check out the Bing Skype integration and the U.com integration. Right now, those are my two favorites, but none of them are quite as nice as the original OpenAI chat interface, which I think is kind of the best thought out one. With the Bing integration, I wish they would put the citations off to the side. I think the citations that are inline clutter the answer. So I think that's something they need to make nicer, is getting the citations somewhere where they're not in the way. What do you think about it, Clint?
I disagree on the citations. I like them exactly where they're at. They're using, the, what is it, super, how do you call it, where the one is higher up and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of traditional to, if you're writing a research paper, which is essentially what I see as what Bing is doing. They're creating a research tool. They created a research tool, and it's giving you your answer and then citing the sources so you can learn more. And I absolutely love that. I just got access to the actual Bing.com feature, that part of the AI. But like you, I had the Skype one for a while now, and I mean, I like it. It is not, in my opinion, like a Chat GPT is, where we can go into Chat GPT and ask for coding and all that stuff. Bing's version doesn't do that very well, but it was easy for quick research, and I think that's kind of the route that Bing is going. We don't want to have you create. It's not looking to be like a content creator. It's being research assistant. That's the best word, I think, for it.
Yeah, it does have current data. So if you're looking for the Chat GPT capability with current data, it can tell you the dates of upcoming things. It can tell you what's currently on a website.
Statistics and stuff and all that. If you're making, you want your people to make infographics, if you're into that, you go give me 5 statistics on whatever you're talking about, and it goes in there, researches them, cites them, and essentially all you got to do at that point is the design. So that kind of stuff is really good.
Yeah,
I think there's more trust in regards to the information return from Bing because the citations are there, versus Chat GPT, where you got to go back and do some research to make sure that didn't lie to you.
Well, I think you're right. I think what I would like to see is some preferences on how they're displayed. So maybe there's a default display, and then you can go into a preference and say, put them on the side. That would be a really nice touch if I had a way to, optionally get that handled. There's a follow-up question here. Have you figured out how to get Midjourney to create images with text? And the way you do that is you get it the way you want it to look with bad text, and then you Photoshop good text in it. And it takes literally 2 minutes, if you know your image editor, to put good text into the image. So yeah, any graphic designer can do the text in seconds. So as long as you get the everything else about it right, the text is really a non-issue. So maybe learn how to cut out the bad stuff and to put in the good stuff. That's a minimum amount of image editing, and that would be a pretty handy course, how to change the text and Midjourney outputs. So you could probably sell a bunch of those right now, and it would probably only take a graphic designer a few hours to throw it together.
It seems weird.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird to me because I mean, there's so many photo editors. You just upload a photo and drop some text over the top of it, you're done. But it's weird and I know that I'm used to that. I research that kind of stuff, right? But it's weird that yeah, you know what? People would pay for that. So what you and I would be like, that pretty simplistic answer right there, and use tool X, it's free, upload your image, put the text on it, download the new version, ta-da, you're done, and give me $7.
Yeah. I tactical things, if it saves people time, Eric's time is probably worth $100 an hour. He'd probably give you 50 of it to get the answer quickly.
50 now. You're getting greedy with 50.
All right, so let's see, where was I on the YouTube questions?
Tanya.
No, we did that one, right? Yeah, so
yeah.
If you have a small website, 50 equally important money pages, is it okay to add them all as navigation links to the footer? Hell yes. Hell yes. Go look at CNN's footer and tell me otherwise. Yeah, it's totally fine to have a global site navigation. And every online retailer is doing that. Every single one of them. Thoughts, Clint? You look
from a personal perspective, I look at those mega menus and I just roll my eyes like, seriously, can you make this a little bit easier to move around your site? Terry Samuels had a cool way of building his mega menus. So if you were on the SEO path, you only got the SEO links. You're on the web design path, you only got the web design links. That was cool. But I'm with you. If you have 50 that are equally important and they all making you money, then put them all in the footer, and it's totally fine, I think.
Yeah, and ecom, I had a rule that top navigation was for humans and footer navigation was for bots.
Yeah.
And so you might benefit from a rule like that if you're dealing with a lot of humans.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen one of the sites I'm working with now, the client brought another SEO agency on, and I'm working on his other 700, so they can work on this one. I'm totally fine with it. And they blew one of those stupid mega menus on there, and like there's 100 links in there. And what the fuck is this? Like, as a user, I am totally lost. I've worked with that site, and as a user, I'm still lost because of that mega menu. So I would consider that when you're building your navigation stuff up at top. But like Ted said in the footer, you can go into any local market and see what all, like he mentioned CNN, but all those big sites, all of them are adding a ton of crap down there. And you might as well do the same thing and get the benefit out of it. They have the budget to test that stuff, and they wouldn't continually do it if it didn't work. So I said, go ahead and duplicate what they're doing.
If you want to visually minimize it, just do an HTML sitemap in the form of a jQuery menu in the footer. And so you put all your SEO links in that jQuery menu, you label the menu sitemap, throw it in the footer. Let's see. What do you think? Or wait, I skipped one. All right, here we go. Do you think the amount of pages on X topic will improve rankings? Yeah, bigger sites have an easier time. Like that's an effect that's been noticeable for years. But keep in mind that, I'm known for very recently ranking one-page sites on Google #1. So it's like there's more than one way to rank a page. You don't always have to build a massive authority site to do it. You can rank one-pagers. So it's really, what are you trying to accomplish and how much time and money and effort do you want to put into it? What do you think, Clint?
It's semantic SEO, basically was talking about, right? And doing topic clusters and then clustering your pages and to support your primary pages and that kind of stuff. And if you are building out like a Brian Dean skyscraper thing, you don't need as many pages as versus if you're building out single topic ones. And then so it's kind of, if you build more, yes, Google will rank you for more, but is it worth the effort to rank for those mores? Does that make, hopefully that makes sense. So, but if you're trying to rank for something broad, let's say you're doing methadone treatment, or the best methadone treatment centers, or what is methadone treatment? How do you treat with methadone or something to that effect, right? There's plenty of subtopics under that, but you may, as Ted alluded to, get it that done with the one page. And if you optimize it right, Google's probably going to rank you for 200 to 300 related queries. And then what I would do from there is look at your impression count and then go, is that query that Google's showing me and I'm getting a shit ton of impressions, can I work that into my original content, or should I make another piece of content and expand on it? And that's how I make those decisions versus creating this big old topic cluster and editorial calendars and all that. It looks nice when you're reporting to the client, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of work you didn't have to do. And it may prove to be useless because Google says something different, and that algorithm might have better keywords for you.
Yep. Lee and Honey say hi from PubCon. So if you're at PubCon, look for Lee Witcher. He's there. They're currently question mining Google, and they've been sharing some of their questions on the side, and it's really fascinating stuff. So yeah, if you're there, be sure to think of good questions to ask Google employees. You never know what you might get. All right, let's see. What do you think the next step would be if I have a lot of products, 1,000 plus? So when I was in ecom, we had about 25,000 products across about 500 product categories. It becomes, as you scale in products, it becomes really difficult to do all your rank tracking. And so you often at a certain point have to shift to looking at organic revenue monthly instead of rank tracking keywords. And you do SEO that impacts organic revenue. It's kind of hard to get started, but once you get down that path, you generally climb the corporate ladder very quickly because everything you do is delivering bottom line profits to the business, and people like what you do at that point. One thing I would recommend you do at the scale you're at is go into the SEO Fight Club archive, find the episode on goose egg SEO, and fix your goose eggs, because you're going to do the least amount of SEO and deliver thousands of customers into the business. So if you have not done that operation on your online retailer, find the goose egg SEO episode. Anything to add, Clint?
No, I'm kind of with you. I did a commercial fishing products website, 25,000 pages, and I'd rather stab myself in the eye than do that again.
All right, so next question. Ecom site, how to avoid blog article cannibalization. Step one, create a spreadsheet where you have your canonical URLs, only canonical URLs in column A. In column B, you are going to put the single best target keyword for the page that you want to rank for that page. And in column C, you are going to put in all of your keyword reach keywords, which are kind of your very closely related keyword mentions. You don't optimize the page for, but you mention them on page to get broad match traffic. and they should be very closely related to the target keyword in column B. You build that map for your website and you will see quickly which pages are targeting too much and who's going to cannibalize who. So by making that simple spreadsheet, you can avoid a ton of problems. Next, I want you to consider breaking out the blog into a branded second domain, because when it's on its own domain, it can rank independently of the store. They can cover the same keywords and you'll get two ranking results instead of one poaching the other. And oftentimes when you start to climb up and somebody comes to me as a retailer, I'm always being forced in the position of saying, now's the time to break it out. Because you're going to want to cross-pollinate for all of this editorial style content, but you don't want to delist your store from the search results. So make a branded domain for it, can have the same look and feel. On the website, you can integrate it so it doesn't even feel like you left the site. It's just a change in the URL bar and you can go back and forth. People don't even need to know they're leaving the site. So, you know, yeah, break it out. What do you think, Clint?
Yeah. He mentioned the product categories, which is, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big issue, right? Because if you, the product categories are the ones that Google prefers to show anyway, unless you have popular products. So, I mean, what you did is better than nothing. And you'll find that with your system, as you explained it, you'll find your existing issues and then be able to head off upcoming ones if you use that as a base when you're writing your topics. So,
all right. Let's see. Some of them rank top 10. This is a follow-up. Some rank top 100. As many products as I can into the top 10. Is linking to products directly the best solution?
So yeah, I can help with this one. So, and it will basically, I have a system. I got a few mass information sites, and the clients that are running those are all consultation clients. So I get to tell them what to do, and their team goes and does it. So what we created was what's called the top 300. And the top 300, how you identify those is by conversions and by traffic. So in your case, you have this group, this big list of products, and you find your top 300. And if you can only work on 100 to make it your top 100, highest traffic, highest conversions. And then you get those and you work those off to rank. And that's kind of how you would build that whole process. So and you promote each of those products based on that. And you can link, if you have the interlinking right, like Ted has talked about in a lot of shows, all the products belong in a category. Each product has their own specific category, and the products in those categories are all interlinked. Linking to the products and knocking them off your top 100 list by getting them up into the number one spot or the top 3 at least will actually boost all the other products at the same time. So you'll work on your primary ones that are making you the most money, and it'll carry the rest of that stuff up. That would be the same. Craig Campbell teaches kind of the similar method when he's building affiliate sites. He'll build out 200 pages, see where they all rank, see where the money and the conversions are, and those are the ones he works on first. I didn't invent it, but that's kind of, I gave it a name, and they're teaching it at the Ezoic conferences now. So I would build a top 100 and knock off the list. That's kind of how I would say skin that cat.
So we have Lee here now. Lee, what are the best tidbits from PubCon?
I've got some that I won't share on the air, but it looks like there's a lot going on with the Bing has actually been very, very impressive in their implementation of ChatGPT, what it means for their future stuff, their ability to interact with the SERP results to dive deeper, which is a really, really nice feature. They also have plans to integrate that with Bing Webmaster Tools, so you can ask ChatGPT about your data and your ranking performance. That's another one that's coming. As well as there was a tease that they have multiple other search engines that are joining the Bing family and the Index Now protocol, which is another way. Their basic argument is that crawling the web is expensive. It's much easier if you tell us what content you want us to consider an index. So good stuff.
They're working with us, not against us.
Yeah,
would
that
have
was one
thought?
of the things that they got applause in the room when they said, somebody said it's nice to see because Fabrice Cannell from Bing said, we want to partner with you, with the SEO community. We want to work with you to get your content, indexed and on Bing.
What a breath of fresh air. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be adversarial.
Yeah. And they're asking for feedback from SEOs, and they're doing more to reach out and build that into their process to get feedback from the SEO community.
That's a huge deal. They're looking for evangelists. There's going to be opportunities here, people. That gives me chills. Like, when was the last time a search engine behaved like that? I mean, you're talking back in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm unaware of the even the thought of that happening. So there's been a lot of that. There's been, the reason I jumped on this one is because the current little event that I was in, the gentleman jumped up there and started talking about why Core Web Vitals was so important, and then I had to go. I'd rather just sit here and hang out on Bike
Oh, I should have. Too bad. You plan that little planning ahead. You could have printed out my PDF doc and been like, "Look, I tested it, but don't take my word for it. Here's this too." I mean, I don't know how much more we can prove that thing is a big ass turd.
Well, you should have made business cards that said free Core Web Vitals consulting with a QR code to Clint's research.
Next time.
Yeah.
That would be a good sales letter, Lee. We'll do one. We'll build it up for lead gen, right? So we'll do your research. We're like, look, you did one keyword, but was that enough? Find out by signing up for this email, and we'll get the PDF out.
That would be a funny thing to do at conferences. You take your pet peeve, you create an answer website, and you put little QR codes with the question about the pet peeve all around the conference.
Yeah, well, I had, it's interesting because it is white hat. So even when questions get raised about using black hat tactics, it makes, some of these speakers, uneasily admit that maybe we have tried these things, but they don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah, they haven't found their courage yet.
Yes, that is correct.
It's hard.
The other one that was kind of fun that I shared in the group was listening to Gary Isles talk about title tags, and use that. It's important real estate. The question that he got that was entertaining, to say the least, was more along the lines of, of course we keep our title tags short, and then he was squirming and he said, first, let me just stop you. I think that's short-sighted to think that, just the part that's visible is, all that we use. If you need more than what we display to characterize your page, do it. We pay attention to the entire title tag. So they're confirming what we've tested many, many times.
Yeah, and I also, before we run out of time here, I also wanted to mention that SEO Spring Training is considering streaming the conference. And so if you could not travel to the conference but were interested in doing it online, I recommend you reach out and voice your support to the SEO Spring Training support channels, and let them know that you are interested. because if they get enough interest in it, I know they were going to let the speakers choose as to whether or not they wanted their topics on the streaming day. If enough people are interested, I'll do stealth SEO on the stream. But you got to let them know so it happens. So, you know, if you thought you were excluded from, you know, that event because you couldn't travel, you know, talk to Terry Samuels, find the support email, say you want a streaming ticket, you're interested. So check it out. And yeah, that's SEO spring training. You can just Google it. And any final notes here, Clint? You have anything you want to wrap on?
No, I think we beat everything with a dead horse. There was one in there. Okay, Fever, how to modify Google AdSense code for the placeholder to get rid of the CLS thing. It is ironic that all of Google's additional code, pixels, all that stuff fires off errors for CLS or Core Web Vitals in general. I look at, do I hate money or do I want to pass this test? Which one is more important? I would leave the AdSense code on there and ignore Core Web Vitals.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe way to go.
Yep.
Yeah, show me proof that Core Web Vitals hurts anything.
And if it's a client talk thing, go look, this is a Google program paid for, you know, that's provided by Google. And it's another Google testing tool that's saying that the Google thing is broken. So the issue is not us, it's Google, and you're fine.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so sorry if we didn't get to your questions or if we missed you. We'll try to do better next time. But I want to thank everyone for participating today. It was a great Q&A session. And thank you, Lee, for the update from PubCon. So we'll see you all next week.